The Jean Patou brand has been around for many years, and it has been known to produce many important fragrances like Joy, Sublime, and 1000. Joy in particular is a perfume that has been around since 1930, since the very beginning of the Great Depression, and it has remained popular for many decades until it was recently discontinued along with other Jean Patou fragrances. Even so, you could still get Joy from some perfume suppliers. I myself have gotten a sample of Joy, and the interesting thing about this is that Joy was once considered to be the most expensive perfume in the world, or it was marketed as such. When it first came out in 1930, it was about $40 for a single ounce. That might not sound like very much today, since there are perfumes that go for hundreds of dollars per 1 ounce, but in 1930, that was quite a lot, especially considering that a lot of people were suffering financially due to the Great Depression. So you might be wondering, why would this be marketed as the most expensive perfume in the world in a time when no one had any money? The thing, you could see the original, what the bottle looked like. The thing about this perfume is that it had a certain luxury, well, a lot of luxury, and even though people were desolate at the time of its creation, they still really wanted nice perfumes. This one perfume in particular, you could see it close up, has a variety of interesting features. First, I'll open it. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a spray cap. You have to pull off the top and hope that it doesn't spill everywhere. It has one of these little sticks to go with it. So it has an interesting formulation. I'll put it on my wrist here. It is known, or at least when it came out, for containing around 10,600 flowers, including, I think, 26 dozen roses or 28 dozen roses. That's a lot of flowers to put into a perfume. And right away you can, unsurprisingly, detect a lot of floral scents when you first put it on. So, the top notes of this fragrance are pretty simple: Bulgarian rose, ylang ylang, and tuberose. The rose is immediately prominent along with the tuberose. It has quite a warm floral profile, so it's not necessarily a bright floral profile, more mellow, and that it sinks right into the middle notes, which only consist of May rose and jasmine. The jasmine also provides this with more of a warm kind of hue. And the base notes are sandalwood and musk. The sandalwood is also very, very prominent, especially if you wear it for several hours. The floral notes will slowly sink into the woody notes. And even the sandalwood kind of comes through quite soon. You don't have to wait several hours to detect it. It's pretty towards the top, actually. There are quite a few interesting facts about this perfume in particular. Supposedly, it was a favorite of Jackie Kennedy, along with some famous actresses back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Unfortunately, this perfume has been discontinued. All Jean Patou fragrances have been discontinued within the recent years, maybe only a couple years ago. And interestingly, Dior has recently produced a perfume of their own called Joy, which I think is only a couple of years old, so they kind of pounced on that name. But And I don't think that Dior could possibly envelop the same luxury and style that the original Joy embodied. Mainly because, well, since this was the most expensive perfume at the time it came out, it's pretty much expected that only the wealthiest women would have worn this perfume. So Jackie Kennedy and plenty of celebrities and movie stars at the time. And while it did become slightly more affordable over the years, it still remained quite a high-priced perfume, and a perfume that is associated with luxury and with the high-class lifestyle. And this, you could tell that this is from the 30s just by smelling it, because it has a very unique scent. Very, very woody. You can imagine maybe a rich, kind of luxurious old wooden wardrobe, and that raw wood smell really comes through with this scent. Very woodsy. Especially over time, it gets even woodsier. And while there are more than 10,000 flowers, the essences of all those flowers in this perfume, it's not overwhelming. And it is the presence of those flowers that has made this perfume so expensive in the first place. Originally, when the perfume was formulated, the perfume master went to the designer Jean Patou and said, "This smells great, but it's far too expensive to produce, especially to the masses." And Jean Patou said, "No, we'll make this part of the marketing scheme." And it did work, marketing it as the most expensive perfume. Everyone, of course, wants the most of this fragrance. And it was very, very popular once it came out. Interestingly, this perfume is actually what saved the Jean Patou brand from going out of business, because during the Great Depression, or before the Great Depression, Jean Patou produced some other designer objects and items and things like that. But once the Great Depression came, it became very, very difficult to sell most things except for perfumes. And simply by producing this one perfume, the Jean Patou brand managed to stay in business for several decades until just recently, when it has discontinued its fragrances. And you could definitely see that this perfume is kind of a milestone in the history of perfumes. This is a sort of fragrance that characterized the 20th century. You know, people would be able to know when you're wearing this perfume. They would recognize it and they would be, "Oh, she's wearing the most expensive perfume in the world." So it was a big deal back in the day. Today, not so much. Today, people are not too keen on a lot of the notes that this perfume has, unfortunately. I personally quite like it, because it kind of follows with the scents that I prefer, the low, woodsy notes. It has no sweetness at all. Despite all the flower essences, which is interesting, even the rose, the Bulgarian rose and the May rose, are not particularly sweet. I would say the floral notes are more akin to dried flowers. So not necessarily fresh and bright flowers, but kind of dried, matured, more sophisticated floral notes. And while you can't necessarily pinpoint or smell every single of those 10,600 flowers, and most of them are jasmine, but even so, you could definitely tell that there is a certain thick luxuriousness to this perfume. And you can almost imagine a woman from 1930s shrouded in her jewelry and her fur coat, kind of emanating this scent. So it is a very, very sophisticated scent. It is designed to be sophisticated and luxurious. for that reason, it's not really a youthful scent. It's more for a mature, sophisticated woman, a woman who has already left her adolescence behind and wants to smell like an adult. This is for adults. A teenager would never wear this. And that is another thing that makes this perfume unique. And it's also probably why it's not often worn, especially by young people today. But, of course, there are some people, young people, who enjoy vintage perfumes and vintage style perfumes, like me, who just prefer kind of this different class of scents and fragrances. And following with the fact that this is a very 30s perfume, the dry down is a bit powdery. Not exceedingly powdery, as with some Coty perfumes, like the Emerald perfume that I reviewed before it does become quite powdery after some time. This is only slightly powdery, which I think is pretty versatile. Besides that, it has some darker, warmer notes of civet, iris, kind of stuff like that. Not too bold and not too masculine. There's not like leathery notes or smoky notes. It's mostly woodsy with some warm floral notes. And the other interesting thing has to do with the design of the bottle. The bottle here. It was designed by an architect, actually. And the bottle itself is actually, it reminds me of the original bottle for Chanel No. 5, which is similarly square with kind of a blocky nozzle at the top. This bottle is squatter and more rigid. It doesn't necessarily have those rounded edges that Chanel has, but it does have the same vintage shape, which was pretty popular back then, especially moving away from the more detailed bottle designs that were popular before the 20s and 30s, and kind of following a more Art Deco geometrical design. And that design has obviously pretty much been unchanged for several decades. As for the longevity, I would say that this perfume is not extremely long-lasting, but more long-lasting than most of your average perfumes. So maybe around 6 hours. It's not like a bomb of fragrance that will choke everyone around you. Like I said, it's kind of mellow, kind of a solid, not neutral, just warm, and it'll stay on you for many hours. And the sillage is also not too great unless you, of course, put on a lot. But I think one application, say in the morning, should last you throughout most of the day, or the evening, or whatever. And also, I wouldn't say that this is necessarily an evening or morning perfume, or even a seasonal perfume. I think it's very versatile. You could wear this any time of the day, any time of the year. It's timeless in that way. You could get away with wearing it whenever you want. The thing that is most important to consider is that this is a very, very, very high quality perfume. You cannot understate the quality of this perfume. It's certainly not something you would pick up at the drugstore or something like that. This is, it has more than 10,000 flowers in it. It has been carefully crafted, by people who know exactly what they're doing. So, even if you don't like the scent of this perfume, and I imagine that some people wouldn't like this scent due to its kind of bygone nature, even so, it is important to appreciate the quality, the luxury of this perfume. But overall, I personally quite like it. I have been wearing it kind of throughout the week. and I enjoy the woodiness of the fragrance. Also, when it came out, it was the second best-selling perfume. The first best-selling was Chanel No. 5. So that kind of shows what a huge impact Joy by Jean Patou made, especially during its time. So that's pretty much it for this perfume. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and wait for new videos every Tuesday or Thursday. So that's all.